Welcome to Northwest Arkansas Investing Podcast, your go-to source for real estate investing in Northwest Arkansas.
Whether you're a seasoned investor just starting out, we bring you expert insights, market trends, and practical strategies to help you build wealth through real estate.
From buying and selling to property management and long-term investment planning, we cover it all so you can make smart, informed decisions in this fast-growing market. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Northwest Arkansas Investing Podcast. We're here on another episode. If you would have listened to the last two episodes, you would have heard Mayor Molly Ron, the mayor of Fayetteville. And then we just had a really good podcast, if you go back one episode, about financial freedom and some bigger, broader concepts on why to be financially free. What does it actually mean? Just diving in and picking apart some of those bigger, broader concepts. And I think that's a really good one you should listen to. Right now, we're going to talk about a real estate blueprint and how to put real estate deals together. The complete blueprint from start to finish. I think this is something that I have a lot of conversations on per week. I know Brian and Brandon do as well with like, hey, how do you run numbers? How does a deal look like? Like, how would you put to get together a deal? I'm in a bunch of group messages with like, hey, Zach, what's the cash on cash return on this? What's blah, blah, blah. And so we're going to go over that on this, maybe a little bit shorter of a podcast, but something that I feel is going to add a lot of value. So we're just going to dive right in with like some 5 ways deals realistically come to us. Brokers. So I would say, like, when I say brokers, it could be brokers / real estate agents. I think that's kind of what that means. And so it's like, Brian, in your field, when deals come to you, when it says brokers, is that like, and I'm almost playing dumb. Who does that mean to you?
Yeah, it means real estate agents. That's people that sell your home, that sell the commercial building you see on the side of the street. It's people representing buyers and sellers.
Yeah, that's a great way. Brandon and I are both real estate agents and the investing sphere, and so we bring deals to people. I'd love to bring a 150 unit apartment complex to Brian, but I usually bring a duplex or a quadplex or something to like these out of state investors, direct to seller. And so this is like Brandon cold calls on somebody and they say, yeah, I want to sell my home. Or that correct, Brandon?
Yeah, 100%. I think, yeah. I mean, one of the most effective forms of
finding a great
marketing.
Deal.
I mean, anybody who really wants to find deals, whether you're a flipper or a, long-term buy and hold, I think if you're not marketing to sellers directly in some form, and it doesn't have to be, large scale, then I think you're missing the boat a little bit.
I mean, I have a lot of people coming to me and looking for me to be Superman and find them the best deals, being a broker / real estate agent. And I go, well, honestly, like my investors that see the best return are putting together off-market deals are ways to find properties off-market. I have 700 people I represent, and so what do you want me to do, a campaign just for you?
Yeah.
The other 500 people, like
the best investors that I work with and know that are doing it at the largest scale have mastered the direct to seller. I mean, Brian, you got your start doing direct to seller, putting together seller financing deals. Most recent deal I've done was direct to seller as well. So it's, I mean, especially in Northwest Arkansas, your best deals are going to be found there. But if you're not able to figure out a way to, maybe that's mail, maybe you can start doing mailers or even sending a letter to owners in an area that you like. But otherwise, if you're not, a lot of times you're going to find your best deals picking up the phone.
I mean, yes, brokers and real estate agents can bring you the deals, and that does happen. But your best and highest chance of getting more and getting the best deals is going to be through mailers, cold calling, door knocking, REI call center, which is like call centers that will basically make calls for you, doing things yourself, writing letters in the mail yourself, having campaigns that you're actively moving through these different types of homes and finding that's where you're going to find your deals.
Yep.
Social media brand / reputation, and that's where I see Henry probably get some deals from. And I think if he were on, he'd probably say the same thing. He's really built a brand for himself and like, hey, this is what I do. This is how I do it. And, being transparent on that and having a brand on social media that, and I think he's maybe got 70 or 80 or maybe over 100,000 followers, maybe 150. I can't remember exactly what he had, but he has a lot of followers. And Henry, I promise, gets deals because of his reputation, and that works both ways. Like, you can have a good reputation, you have a bad reputation. And Henry has a very good reputation in the community. And I hear a bunch of stories where, like, Henry did me right. I recommended this person, people recommending people to him direct to seller, where it's like, hey, this is a great deal. Maybe he didn't work out for him on this, but recommended this. So people like Henry, having a great social media presence and a brand that he's built. And if you're listening, like, maybe that's the path you take. So that is a way. Investors bringing opportunities. That could be like, I would
That's
say,
me. Like, if I think on that, I found, like, hey, Brandon, hey, Zach, like, there's this property. I don't like, this is the property I want. Can you, like, get a hold of them? Like, can you put me at, like, I'm very interested in buying this property. Do you have ways of looking up the owner information, and can you make the 100 calls that I want, like the email, the phone call, the letter, like that consistently for the next couple months? Like, I that's what I picture that.
Yeah.
Like, like, I have to, like, trying to do it yourself. It can be, that's why there are brokers, because it's a full-time job, like, trying to get a hold of these people. So, there's been cases where I'm like, hey, like, I would love to buy these properties. These are targets of mine. These are 5 to 100 units, or like, but even further than just say, hey, I'm looking for 5 to 100 units. There's a couple addresses here that they look pretty crappy. Like, get a hold of them.
100%. I would agree with that fully. I think another avenue is, like, and this leads into lenders, attorneys, contractors feeding leads, is you're not gonna get any leads if no one knows you're looking for leads, and no one knows that you're looking for these types of properties. So you have to let your sphere, you have to let people around you know that you're looking for this stuff. And I think that's a really big one, is like, attorneys that lenders that hey, Mr. Lender, like, if there's somebody that comes in and they're like, oh, I'm looking to sell my house, if you know anybody, I would love to sell it, because I got to buy another place or something. And if you're not in their ear, like, hey, I'm looking for a property like this, that lender's gonna never know to contact you. That attorney's never gonna know to contact you. That banker's never gonna know to contact you. So, like, being in the people around you sphere to know, like, a contractor, like, make some friends with some contractors. They get calls for a reason. It's to do work on houses, and some of the best houses for buying off market need some work done. Contractors aren't doing work on great homes. So, maybe sometimes, but, like, these contractors are going into these off-market opportunities all the time, and they're oftentimes the first boots on the ground in these places. And so it's like, I know a lot of contractors are like, yeah, I buy a lot of investment properties. I go into a spot and kind of sucks. I'm like, well, would you let me buy it? They're like, sure. Like, so there's a lot of opportunities like that.
Of those 5, I would say brokers are, like, the most reliable and best way to find it. Direct to seller, that's ideal. That'd be great. So you can deal direct with them. Just because you're dealing direct, you can still do seller financing on broker deals or these other ways.
It's a little harder.
Direct to seller, you're not the time, like, there's not as much pressure. Like, there's not like a, hey, we're competing against these other people too. But sometimes with the brokers, that doesn't necessarily, you could be working with a broker and they're only talking to you, like, or you and a couple. That can range from just you and a couple people to they've sent it to people, 700 people for 1,000 or 10,000 people on their list. So, for me, and that I would say brokers, direct to seller.
You got to let the broker know you're looking for what you're looking for too.
Yeah. And that kind of leads us into the next, is like, what determines if a deal is worth your time?
So I'm just going to go over each one of these, and then we can kind of say what determines if a deal is worth our time. So some things to analyze of what a deal is worth your time is: what's the price per door, cap rate versus rents, condition, age, seller's motivation, market fundamentals, job growth, comps. So
I think to be in the beginning of that, a deal is worth your time. Before that, we're going back to the 5 ways to get deal. Like, figure out what kind of deals you want to do. Are you like, what is your risk tolerance? How active do you want to be? How passive do you want to be? What do you actually like doing? Do you think you can be in and out in a year? Or are you okay holding for 3 or 5 years? So I would try to get specific. It's hard to get too specific and then you pitch and hold, but there is, it's kind of a art, not a science, on getting dialing in on that.
Have at least a direction.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to have an exact paved path, but have a direction you're going to be walking. If you're going to be like, well, I'll buy anything from apartments to single family to commercial buildings. It's like, if you tell me that, I'm going to be like, okay, like, I'm probably not going to, like, that's so much broad. Like, but if someone comes to me, they're like, hey, Zach, I'm looking for single families to duplexes in this area because of this, and I need them to be around this price, and they need to be getting, I need to be having this type of cash on cash return. I'm probably going to find you something. But if you came to me and you're like, anything from 1 to 60 units, make it happen. And it's like, I mean, what do you want me to do with that information? Like, okay, you want me to send you every listing that comes? Like, so yes, before you even dive into this, have some type of area strategy that you're going to go after. If it's, I mean, I will say, like, if you're like, hey, duplexes that are built after 1980, that's okay. That's a great start. Like, we can look at duplexes that are built after 1980, and then we can analyze from there. And so that's a great start.
Figure out what your price range is too. Like, am I looking for properties around 300,000? Like, the top I want to go is 300,000, or am I looking at $1 million properties? And you can go back to our last episode and kind of hear how we reverse engineered some things. But I think getting specific on that. So, like, for me, like, on the price per door, I think is pretty important. It depends on what market I'm in. The cap rate also depends. You know, you talked about cash on cash, so that could determine if a deal is worth your time. And that's where a lot of people start, is the cash on cash. But we also talked about that on the last episode, is don't get too hyper focused on that, because you'll miss a lot of opportunities, and you won't do a lot of deals too if you're just hyper focused on cash on cash. For me personally, I'm looking at what is my average annual rate of return, and that includes a little bit. Sometimes that's cash flow, sometimes that's no cash flow for 3 years. But that's a 30% average annual return at the end of 3 years. Like, and so I think for me, that's what is my total return is a big
it's like
determinant of it.
I think I'd say cash on cash, and I'm thinking, like, yes, cash flow, but I'm really not even thinking about cash flow when I say cash on cash. I'm thinking about, okay, if I exit in 10 years and I profit this much, then what's the money that I inserted? What did that do for me at that point? You know what I mean?
So that's closer to your average annual.
Right. I'm basically saying, you're saying it right. I'm just had a weird way of saying it.
Yeah. But a lot of people do talk about cash on cash too. Like, I need 8% cash on cash. Okay, go buy in Memphis. No. Like,
not North Arkansas.
But, or you're going to put, that's fine, 8% cash on cash, but you're going to have to put 50% down. You're going to have to put 60% down. Like, you're going to have to figure out.
It's like, okay, we can get an 8% return in 5 years with the type of appreciation, and then exit in 5 years. Like, okay, if 8% is what you're going for, it just might not be in the form of cash in your pocket every month.
Yeah, or if it is in cash in your pocket, you're probably sacrificing. Like, you're not going to get a big return. Like, you're not going to hit those 30%. Like, with an 8% cut from, you know, maybe I'm naive, but if I'm getting 8% cash on cash, I'm probably not getting 30%, 20%, 30% average annual returns. You know, so it's okay.
Yeah.
If I'm dead set, I need 8% cash on cash, then you need to look at what your total return is on that, and how much cash you're going to be putting in to get to that.
Are you collecting rent with a 9mm? Are you, is there your tenants great? What kind of tenants are you attracting with 8% cash on cash, 10%? You know, people are always like, I want the 1% rule. I'm like, okay, so that means that a $200,000 house, you want $2,000 on rent. I mean, it's just not going to happen. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen here. And that $300,000 house, you want $3,000 on rent. 400, you want 4,000. Like, it's just not going to happen. And so I think, and what'd you say, annualized rate of return?
Yeah.
I think that's more so what you need to be focused on if you're thinking about, and this is a Northwest Arkansas investing podcast. So if you're thinking about Northwest Arkansas, it needs to be a mindset of less of like quick, fast now, and more like, hey, here's what's happening in this area. Let's look at 5, 10, 15 years down the road and projections, and like what's it's going to do for you on an overall return instead of like a right now return.
Yeah, but I mean, I would even say still people are still stealing properties out there that buying at insane basis. So again, it goes back to those 5 ways of being able to find deals. I mean, if you become great at any of these, maybe it's direct to seller, maybe it's great relationships with brokers and ability to close. Everybody knows you as the guy who can close. Mm-hmm. You know, deals are happening every day, and although it's not common, not as common. If you're great at that, then you're going to be able to go find out deals that nobody else is getting access to.
I love the idea of dialing in on one or two of these and being like, I'm going to be really good at being a direct to seller.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to be really good at creating relationships with brokers. Or, if you try to be really good at all these, you're going to fail. If you want to be the best social media person and be best person direct to seller and be great with brokers, I mean,
for sure,
you're a unicorn or your name's Henry Washington, honestly, at that point. Like Henry's good at all those. I mean, he's just really perfected a lot of these. So, I mean, hat tip to him. What's a deal that took y'all 2 minutes to look at and walked away? Is there a deal recently where you're like, nah, like I can?
That's about my average time I spend on deal. Like I get to deal like multiple deals a day, like daily. Look, like I probably do multiple 2-minute analysts of deals a day, and that's probably like I love our last episode, but like you talk about what are your 2026 goals, but what I'm really good at is putting those goals. But what I'm working through doing now is what am I doing weekly and daily to get to those goals? I think is important. But yeah, on most deals I look at 2 minutes. I get a deal, and that's not including the deals I get sent in Little Rock or like Russellville or Jonesboro, or just because I'm in Arkansas or some parts of Oklahoma and Tennessee that you could say 2 seconds to look at, just deleting. Like that's not even.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Location can have a big piece of that, of knowing when to walk away quick. Little Rock for you could be one. Betty Joe Drive, could be down there in Fayetteville. Like those are ones that come to mind. Like it comes, if I see that come across my email, new listing multifamily, and I see Betty Joe Drive, it's still auto. I mean, it's just
when I first got into real estate, it was like my first year in, and I was like started representing investors, and I saw like a fourplex on Betty Joe Drive come up, and I was like, and I don't know why I'd never heard of Betty Joe Drive, but I was like, this is an insane price. It was like $400K for a fourplex, and I was like, send to everybody, and then I contacted my broker. I was like, I found this great deal. He's like, you did not send that to your database. I was like, we did. He's like, just respond with, I'm sorry, never mind, there's blah, blah. It's like one of the worst. It's like F.
One of our investors is going to be like an investor on one of those Betty. If you haven't been investing long enough,
somebody's got to own it. I mean, somebody's making money.
I too, at one point in my career, have looked at deals on Betty Joe Drive because it's tempting. But I hope one of the owners just owns it all cash or.
For sure. But I think that was one of the quick, like 2 minutes can walk away too, is like, location, it's not for me, or doesn't fit my box. Or
honestly, like something, I paper napkin or mental math, a lot of stuff, and like you just get so good at like, what are the rents for this type of stuff, what's the rent for this type of stuff, and like people will be like, all right, let's put together a whole spreadsheet on something. And I'm like, I need like 2 seconds on this. Like, how much is it, what area is it in, what's the bed bath, and what's the square footage? And like I can tell you if it's worth diving into more. Like someone the other day brought me a duplex. It was like $450, but it was 2 bed, 1 bath each side, and I know the area, and you're maybe getting $1,500 on rents. And I was like, immediately you're negative. Like, let's just if it was $400K, 3 bed, 3 bath each side, and it was decently updated, okay, it might be we got a different conversation here, because we got an extra bedroom, we got an extra couple bathrooms, like that suits more of a family, that we can maybe make that work. But like, there's a lot of stuff that, if, especially as an investor, if you're bringing to one of us and we just go, or like let's, or like, oh, like let's peek a little further. What's worth it? And there's a lot of value in that, with being with somebody like us that can think about that beforehand and not waste a bunch of time. Like, oh, let's do a full analyzation on this thing, and then you're like, oh, we're minus $1,000 a month. You're like, you couldn't have like mentally done the math on that beforehand. So I excuse the investors I represented my first year in the business. Sorry about that.
And that's another, we're going to be talking about it on the next segment, but is before we dive into that, it's underwriting like hundreds of bad deals to get to that point where you can tell what a bad deal is quickly, but that it takes time. Like that's almost as like another measure is how many deals are you underwriting. Like it could be a measure of your success. How many deals are you underwriting a day or a week?
Yeah.
And that can also excel your path there.
Yeah, let's just roll right into that. This next segment is underwriting deals plus due diligence phase. Some of the things that we're going to look for with underwriting, I'm just making sure this does go to the next page. Some of the things we're going to be looking for, and then we'll tag in on some of these, but rent roll, T12 financials. If you don't know what T12 means, that basically is like your rent roll for the last 12 months. Expenses versus market norm. Sorry, I got hiccups. Expenses versus market norms, value add potential, CapEx budget. If you don't know what CapEx means, that means like bigger ticket items. We're talking roof, HVACs, mechanicals, something wrong with foundation, like bigger ticket items. That's what CapEx means. Debt assumptions, return to investors, cash on cash, IRR, equity multiples, sensitivity testing, worst case scenario planning. And so those are some of the things we need to be thinking about when we're underwriting a deal. Brian, is there one of those that sticks out to you that like, well, I have to have this every time?
Yeah, the top two we've talked about multiple times on this podcast is the rent roll and the T12 financials, with the T12 being, like you spoke about, how much you've collected in the past 12 months of income, and then also what are your expenses the last 12 months. And I would be very careful on that T12. Some people include some expenses in there and some don't. So when you're in your due diligence period, you're not just looking at a rent roll and a T12. Anyone could
take their word for it.
Yeah, anyone could create a PDF or an Excel. So you're looking at bank statements and you're looking at utility bills and you're verifying that. So that should be part of your 30 to 60 day due diligence, is verifying that what they are charging is true. So rent roll. But just because someone's on a rent roll and paying $800 a month doesn't mean it shows that Natalie is paying $800 a month. But when was the last time we collected her?
She's only been paying $250.
She's 3 months behind, and you're going to have to evict her, which is going to take another 30 days, and then you're going to have to go improve her unit. So
and she's a smoker, and
yeah.
Sorry, Natalie. But.
Natalie, we got to get priority straight.
Natalie needs Jesus.
Zach has a church for you guys. But the rent roll, yeah. So doing financial due diligence on that, like what they're actually charging, and then the physical due diligence, like you're getting in every single, on the multifamily, I say every single unit, but in a single family, you're inspecting everything. You're hiring a professional. You know, like for me, I'm getting, in my due diligence, I like getting I know that I'm going to have to put some CapEx into it, or I know, like I have an idea of what GCs are charging on price per vertical, but like getting actual plans and like putting them in front of them, I think is like getting hard numbers is important in that due diligence. And you have to be careful because you don't want to waste people's time and the deal doesn't come through. And some people understand that that's part of the due diligence process too, but like as much real information as you can get from contractors that are actually going to go replace that roof or going to replace your windows, like go out to a couple of those, I think is important.
And then it's piggybacking off of that, expenses versus market norms. There could be a property that they give you the T12, it shows the expenses and stuff, and you're like, okay. But cross-checking that with other property managers in the area and going, okay, for a property like this with 12 units, like could I see y'all's T12 or something? And then you're going like, okay, the one that I'm under contract on has way more expenses. What's going on here? Because I'm cross-referencing this with other data points, and what's happening over here is not ringing true with this data point that I'm under contract on, and digging into that and going like, for other 12 unit properties, what did expenses look like? And I think that's something to dive into. You don't just want to take their word for it and be like, okay, it is what it is, because it could be high expenses and you're like, oh, it's because every HVAC unit is getting replaced every month now because we're on year 20 of HVAC units and they're all old as Christmas, and now we're replacing a furnace or a condenser about every month now, and that's an extra $7,000. And so like it's like, okay, well, to get this back to normal, we're going to need to change all the roof. We're going to have to get new roof, and we're going to have to get all new HVAC and new hot water heaters. And and then in your due diligence period, you're like, hey, Mr. Seller, your expenses are higher and this is what's going to cost us, and laying all the math out, and that you could go, okay, I'll do the new roof and the new HVAC and stuff like that. Is that kind of ring true?
100%.
Yeah.
Expenses you have to be so careful with. Like people that have these 30% rate, like expense. If I see, that's another thing, like a sniff test or whatever, if the expense ratio is 30%, it better be a brand new development. And it's like we have everything new in the property. Like, I'm seeing closer to 50% depending on the type of property, but it also depends on what is the tenant paying and what is the standard for that type of asset class that the tenant is paying. Are they being billed back for water? Or are they paying that directly? Are they paying for electric directly? Or are they being billed back for that? You could go all the way to where mostly, for a triple net lease where the tenant is covering most of the expenses, if not all of them. So making sure under your due diligence, you're figuring out, looking at the lease agreements, like analyzing the lease agreements.
There's some whack lease agreements out there.
Yeah, and especially on the commercial side and the residential side with mom and pop guy that put together it basically on a napkin. So I think definitely.
I've gotten T12s before on like literally like someone writing on a piece of paper and scanning it to me. I'm like, y'all haven't been tracking this? They're like, no.
Some of those are the best.
That's some of the best deals.
That's buying opportunity.
Unless you're a real investor, most of them don't keep a T12.
No.
I'm sure on the single, like
if they do keep a real T12, you're like, this ain't gonna.
The most recent T12,
it's very organized.
It was like a legal pad with name, phone number, and their rent and deposit. That was it.
You're licking your chops.
Yeah, for sure.
Boomers got it so easy. They don't. Their debt is nothing, and
because they own the place outright.
Yeah.
They don't need to keep.
They know all the tenants.
No offense to our boomer listeners.
For sure. Told me though.
So, what's one big underwriting mistake beginners make? What would you guys say? What is
I think under estimating expenses. Number one,
trying to make it work.
Right, underestimating taxes and not recognizing that they're going to be reassessed, stuff, but those kind of things.
Increasing income too much, using brokers, brokers get like a bad rep of having rosy proformas, where it's like a like this is a broker proforma.
Great investment opportunity.
That ain't that's not the actual
foul. Yeah, they'll be like they'll type out this ChatGPT description saying how great of investment, stable cash flow, and it's like a 2 cap or whatever. So but yes, or a pro forma 5 cap, when it's sick, but the pro forma is it's showing rents that are just not attainable.
You need a pro forma is good because you're seeing how they're managing it and how you expect to, but be careful on the assumptions that you're making. Like what percentage are we increasing rents? If we're increasing rents a lot, what's the justification behind that? Are we just buying it and we're the new owner and now we increase rents? It's probably you got to put some work in there to get those increases.
We just expect everyone that's already, if it's super leased up, if we're going to increase it $500 a month, what vacancy are we expecting now? Because a lot of people are going to say no. Like, what are we going to do? So that's super good. I think piggybacking off what Brandon said, a big mistake I see is property taxes a lot. Property taxes and insurance, and just expecting insurance and property tax are going to be around this. I see it a lot with single family homes with property tax with, the county says it's $1,400 a month for property tax. It's like, okay, because that person's 79 and they haven't had property taxes assessed in years. And once you buy it, now it's getting reassessed, and the millage rate is 51, and so you're going to take that 400,000 times 20% and times it by the millage rate. Now your property tax is 4,500. So like you just went from a deal cash flowing to a deal being upside down big time. And if you're not smart and you're not a smart real estate agent or an advisor, you're going to miss that. And I would say, piggybacking into the next, what's the fastest way to kill a deal? I would say almost what's a bad way to lose your reputation as an advisor is to miss that kind of stuff, is to miss the, hey, it was good now, but I totally forgot about the and I've had to have some hard conversations early on in my career with a few people with like, hey, I told you it was 2,000. I know you just got reassessed for 4,000. I'm sorry, I missed that. And that's something that comes with time and learning, and that will kill those will kill a deal. And I mean, getting quotes way beforehand, early in the, because usually insurance is like, okay, I'll get a quote at the end or whatever. Get it right now, because like insurance is wacky and funky, and it could kill a deal as well.
Go to your and to that, we are looking for sponsors like vendors and to be able to recommend on the show. But like, go to your insurance guy, or go to your painter, or go to your roofing guy, or go to your contractor and
call the city.
Call
the city and get them a new millage rate. Hey, are you expecting a reassessment soon? Like, have conversations.
Or have partners that are talking to those people regularly.
Yes,
like that have those connections too.
Yes, 100%.
And that's right into the next segment, building the team that makes a deal work.
So I mean, like building the team is what's going to get you the deals, and that's what my best out-of-state investor clients do. Out-of-state and in-state investor clients do, is they build a team. Broker, lender, mortgage broker, banker, equity partners, LP investors, property managers, contractors, attorneys, CPAs, insurance broker, architect. And I would say, like, you can keep going. You can go, it says contractor, but like I would say having HVAC guys, electricians, plumbers, and that's something, if you're talking with Brandon and I know for sure, like, we'd be able to say, hey, we're buying this property, and they're like, and one of my biggest questions from people that don't know anything is, they're like, I don't know any contacts. It's like, and my line is like, hey, I have all of them for you. I build homes. I've already gone through the bad people, so I'm going to only give you the good contacts, and I have everything. So like, when someone punches a hole in the wall and you need a drywall guy, I got you. When the HVAC goes out, which it will eventually, I got you. When the roof has hail, I got you. Like, you'll give you all these contacts. Like, a broker / agent can be the segue to giving you like basically all these contacts, and at least giving you a couple to try on each. You don't have to go find them yourself and be like, hey, if you find a really, really good agent or a broker, they can assist you in a lot of these. Like, hey, here's the CPA I use. Here's the, you want to create an LLC for Arkansas. Here's the person that can help facilitate that for a $400 fee or something like that. So, Brandon, what would you say is probably the top couple most important people on that list?
Yeah, I think number one comes to mind for me as a lender.
Yeah.
I've had multiple, the last couple of deals I've done, very unique and very different. And, I've got two kind of go-to guys when it comes to commercial lending that I really like. And, it's almost on both of those deals, like one guy, the first deal, one guy couldn't do what I was wanting to do, and the other guy could, and they made it work, and it worked great. And then this next deal came up, and same thing, like this guy who couldn't do the one before could get creative for me and make it work and make it, and this other guy couldn't. So I think number one, lenders can make or break your deal. So, and all have different terms, all have different things that they like to lend on and not like to lend on. So I think that's really important. And property manager, I think, is number two, if not number one there. Yeah. If you're not, if you're managing yourself, I think you need to check your processes and figure out, are you doing this at a high level? Because you're either killing yourself or you're doing it the right way. And then if you're doing third party property management, then, I think getting a really good understanding of, because they're not going to care for your property like you are necessarily, but I think understanding, what are they great at? Are they great at renewals? Are they great at, marketing in general and getting units leased up?
They could be good at getting someone in there, but once it comes to the management side of it, it could be bad.
Yeah. Could they be great at, maintenance and helping you kind of work through maintenance, in a way that's really affordable compared to others? So
it could be something where you're like, okay, I'm going to lease my properties and then I'm going to hand it off after that. Like, I know that I can do that very well. Like, for the future, for my properties that I buy, I know that, like, I'm going to be the person that, like, probably finds that in being in the real estate field, I'm going to find the tenant most likely. Yeah. But when it comes to the day-to-day management, I'm probably going to hand it off to property management.
Yeah.
But for other people, it may be like, they really need help with finding the tenant, but they're good at the day-to-day stuff. They got the time during the week. So it could be a mixed match of that.
Yep, those are two biggest for me.
Yeah,
that thing.
Brian, what would you say top two for you?
Yeah, on the development side, I would say architect and engineer. Like super.
I'm learning that.
Like it's super important to be engaged with them, and we're lucky to have some good ones around this market, and all these guys. We're like NWA. We have a lot of good vendor partners here, so it's a good community. All of these are super important. I think probably the most important is your part, like kind of leading to the next segment before we go there, but is the partners on the deal. That's who's running it, the GP and the LPs. Like who are you investing with? Who's running the deal? Like on that, like if you're not just doing it all yourself with these vendors, I think if you're partnering, like in the beginning for me, it was every single one of these was like super important, like putting it together, the broker, the lender, the property manager, the contractor, the attorney, and the insurance broker. CPA was an afterthought, but they are important to have a good one, but then that evolved to like who you're partnering with is super important.
100% agree. I think there's a prompt on here. It says, who is the first person you call when you have a live deal? Since I'm an agent, if I weren't an agent, I would call an agent first. And then my first call, since I am an agent, is my lender, because which trends into the next section, which team member has saved you the most money on a deal? Because I'll call my lender and be like, what do you think about this? Like, I kind of think it pencils, and they're like, oftentimes I call Heather Long with Armstrong Bank, and I'm like, I'm thinking about doing this. And she's like, well, have you thought about this? And I'm like, I haven't. I'm glad I talked to you first. And that in turn saves me a lot of money. So
yep, shout out Armstrong, December sponsor.
Yep, shout out Armstrong Bank. They're great. They're awesome. Let's go into the capital stack, how the money comes together. Equity, LPs and GPs, personal cash. Brian, can you speak on someone who doesn't know what LPs and GPs are?
Yeah, me and Brandon actually did a really good podcast, a couple episodes about that. The GP is basically the managing partner, the person who is putting together all these team members that we just talked about and is the quarterback for them. And then the LP is the person that is putting up the money and should be getting, if it's structured correctly, should be getting the majority of the upside. Because they're putting in the risk capital, where the other member is putting in more the time capital.
Let's work through raise structure. Like what does that mean? Like 80-20, 70-30, 90-10.
Yeah, so that's been a huge evolution for me. Like I've been a part of all sorts of different structures. In the beginning, it was just me and the seller, or me and myself, and then it was friends and family, where I typically did a 80-20 structure where they got 80% of the deal for putting up the investment, and then I got 20% for doing everything what we talked about. So they would get 80% of the profit, 80% of the upside. When I worked with a syndication company, it was structured as there was a 3% acquisition fee, then the investors would get 100% of the profits until they achieved an 8% return. And then after that, it was split 70% to the investors and then 30% to the managing partners. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes there was what's called a waterfall hurdle. So if they achieved a 16, 17, or 18%, then the profit split would go 50% to them and 50% to the managing partner. So that's a complicated syndication structure. So there's a ton of different ways to structure a deal, whether that's 50-50, whether that's return on capital or return of capital, then your return. So, for an investor partner, structure it, you should, all these things that we talked about is important for your partner to have in place, but how your investment is structured is probably the most important part of the deal too.
Yeah. I 100% agree. It's got a prompt for us to work through a real deal. I'm kind of gonna skip that part and go, what's the hardest part of the capital stack? And I'm leaning a lot on Brian because you do this every day.
Yeah. Putting the deal, like capital stack, like I'd say, like for me, I guess the LP, like the equity is like, knowing where that's going to come. Like where you asked before, like what you have a deal, who's their first call? And for me, it's a short list of investors that have expressed interest to me that they have a certain amount of money they want to invest passively, and I send it to them. But I would say that's the hardest part. When I was doing the syndications, there was multiple parts of the capital stack. There was the lender, Then there was mezzanine or preferred equity, and then there was equity. So that equity would sit there was another layer that would sit in between the bank and the investor.
Yeah.
And that part was hard, and that's like a whole nother partner. So
Totally.
Knowing what I know now, I wouldn't invest in a deal that has that second layer. I as an investor, I want it to be either just me and, just me as the investor group, or me and the bank.
Yeah.
Not another, person in between me and the bank.
Totally agree. And I think if you're listening, this is a great way to invest in real estate in just a different manner. I want to go to segment 5, closing and operating the deal. Closing checklist. When you're getting ready to close a property, you have it under contract, you're approaching close. What are your final loan terms? What does the appraisal look like? Surveys, attorney commitments, insurance binders, final walkthrough, make sure you have your cash to close. A lot of this, all this is something that me and my assistant or Brandon or whatever, we would say, hey, a lender would even say appraisals ordered, surveys would be in the contract. We would say, hey, are we ordering them? Are we not? Do you want me to order that for you? Attorney commitments, so like basically title commitments. Hey, there's not a gas line running through the middle of your property that they're gonna have to dig up in 5 years. Like making sure that the property's clean and clear and there's no liens on the property or things like that. Making sure you have your insurance in order. Final walkthrough. I do final walkthroughs of my stuff. Early on in my career, people are like, oh, is this final walkthrough needed? I walked in a raccoon and gotten in the house. So we just make through, and then before we close, there's a paper you sign off on before you close. That's the final thing you sign off on. Before you do that, you're gonna make sure that raccoon's out of your house and all stuff. For any property, and you want to make sure that you have a cashier's check. Here's my cash to close, or you wired the money. You don't want to show up to closing and be like, all right, I'm here, and they're like, all right, you need $100,000 and 37 cents, and you're like, oh, I only brought 92. You need to know your cash to close. Operating after closing, you need a business plan kickoff. What are you doing for renovations? Which honestly, like operation after closing, the renovation mindset, the planning behind that needs to happen like literally like before you go under contract. Like that's, but like I guess executing on renovations can be post closing. Increasing rents, that happens of course post closing. Manage tenant relationships, which will happen between property manager, most likely if it's a deal that you're not managing yourself. Monthly reporting to investors. I'm sure Brian does a lot of that. Distributions, adjusting the plan as the market changes. I'm sure every deal isn't exactly according to plan. We wish it were, but you have to being able to adjust. What's a mistake we made in the first 90 days of ownership?
Okay.
For me, I think one of my properties in Tulsa, my first 90 days of ownership, I turned it into a short-term rental when it should have just been a long-term rental the whole time. And I thought it was a cool idea. And I was getting like $4,500 a month off short-term rental, but it was so much extra management. And I just was like, you know what? I'm going to put it up for $3,200 a month for long-term rent and just $400 a month of cash flow. Let's see if we can get it. And we got it immediately. And I was like, praise God. So like, honestly, like my plan of action was wrong for the very beginning. And my first, honestly, 120 to 150 days, I messed up on that. That's honestly been a mess up. Brandon, have you had a mess up yet? Every deal you do is great.
That's not true. I'm in it right now, so we'll see. We can revisit this conversation in a few months. But
yeah,
I just closed on one recently and have started renovations like within the last 5 days. So anyway, we'll see. I think I could have been maybe a little tighter on having subs lined up and having my process tight. But this is the first time I've had to turn a rental unit. First time, first time trying to turn a rental unit. I've done remodels, but they've never had a budget. It's been kind of like for personal reasons and remodeling as we want. So we will see. I think the process, time is money on these things.
Yeah.
And you know that too. So I think just having process dialed in on remodels,
Yeah.
is going to help you execute the business plan. So
I 100% agree.
I've been pretty prepared and pretty eager to, like, when I get a deal like that, that's probably my favorite part of the deal is putting a deal together. So like I have all the subs ready to swing hammers day one. Like some of the mistakes that I've seen in my personal investing is they didn't happen in 90 days. They happened like in like 12 months and 2 years. And that was more like on the partnership side, like realizing that I didn't partner with the right people. And like they weren't putting up their weight, and like things weren't going according to plan. Like within the first, sometimes it takes 12 months to see that things aren't going to plan. So I would say like the partnership not being aligned would be the biggest mistakes that I've seen.
Totally.
Personally.
I think that was a great episode.
Yep.
We're going to end it with, I think it'd be cool to read this at the end. Brian, me, and Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we'll just cut in. So Brian, you go first, and I'll read my part. And then Brandon.
A deal is like building a machine. Every part has to work together and nothing works.
The team is everything. A bad contractor or bad lender can destroy months of effort.
And don't overcomplicate this. Every big deal is really just small deals stacked together. Learn the pieces and just repeat the process.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Our next sponsor is Advantage Title and Escrow. They're a local company. They do great work. Specifically, Kayla Phillips. I can speak personally on this sponsor because I use Kayla for all of my transactions. It's been 2, 3, 4 years now, and Kayla and I have done a ton of deals. We probably do between 65 to 80 deals a year together, and they do a great job. The SOPs, so systems and processing that they have over Advantage Title, is just incredible. Clients love it. They do a great job from start to end communicating. When I give a deal to Advantage Title and Escrow, I know that it's going to be taken care of. There's no second guessing. I almost am able to treat them like a second transaction coordinator to my transaction coordinator that I already have. I know that they're going to handle the systems and processes correctly as an agent, as a homeowner, as a buyer or seller. They do an incredible job of handling a transaction and communicating throughout the process. They do a great job with communication, especially Kayla Phillips over there. I would highly encourage you, if you're looking to close on a home, buy a home, if you're an agent listening, to use Advantage Title and Escrow, specifically Kayla Phillips. So you're going to reach Kayla best at 501-358-1601, or you can email her, Kayla, Cayla, at goadvantagetitle.com. Advantage is ADVANTAGE title.com. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and list some sponsors off here. We're going to start with Whinstone Private Lending. This episode is brought to you by Whinstone Private Lending, one of the top private and hard money lenders now serving Northwest Arkansas. Whether you need short-term capital for a flip, a bridge loan, or creative financing, they've got you covered with very flexible products to fit nearly any deal, including 100% financing. What sets them apart is their deep expertise, fast response times, and ability to think outside of the box to help investors like us close quickly and efficiently. If you're looking for a real lending partner, check out Whinstone Private Lending. Link is in the show notes. Banks are about community, and Century Bank of the Ozarks has been your community bank for 131 years. That's over a century, since 1894. They've been helping neighbors build homes, grow businesses, and plan futures. Because they're locally owned, your loan approval happens here, not miles away. Visit their locations in Fayetteville and Mountain Home, Arkansas, as well as Gainesville, Theodosia, Bakersfield, and Ava, Missouri. Century Bank of the Ozarks, local bankers make local decisions since 1894. Member FDIC and equal housing lender. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an update.
Don't forget to connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for more real estate insights and behind-the-scenes content.
Have a question you want us to cover? Send it our way. And if you're interested in sponsoring the show, visit nwainvesting.com to get in touch. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.